Yet another edition of the Hilltop Hoops Hour right here at the top. We have the brand new head coach of the USF Dons men basketball team, Chris Gerlufsen. Chris, thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Great to be here.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. How excited are you? Because, it was about, 72 hours ago you were the assistant coach, the associate head coach, and now as we, have this Tuesday night program, you're the Dons head men's basketball coach, longtime assistant with various programs across the country. You have to be really, really fired up.
I'm beyond fired up. It's been a whirlwind last few days, to say the least, from, the time our game ended with Murray State until now. But it's all great stuff, and I could not be more excited, to dive head first into this and continue the trend of what we've been doing as a program.
Yeah, the USF Dons off a 24-win year. You used the phrase dive into it. Have you begin to think, I know it's early, it's been just a few, 72 hours or so, but have you begin to think about the kind of things you're going to get, right down to work to? Obviously, I would assume that recruiting is going to be one of the first things you're going to begin to attack.
Yeah, I think, the natural things that everyone would assume is the recruiting piece, and that's something that I feel like we've been in a good spot with, prior to the change happening with Todd and him taking the Florida job. We had kind of been out in front of, some of the guys in the transfer portal, and, a lot of guys have actually popped in there over the last few days. So that's something that, we're aggressively on, and just trying to figure out our roster for next year. And then on top of that, obviously, just figuring out the staff and what that dynamic is going to look like. And I think, both those things are majorly important to me to try to, get on the solid ground so then we can move on to the other things.
USF Dons head coach Chris Gerlufsen with us here on the Hilltop Hoops Hour. Pat Olson alongside. Coach, you referenced the excellent season that you can build on. Look back at the campaign. Obviously, you had an awful lot to do with it as the associate head coach. 24 wins, big wins in the non-conference against teams like Davidson and UAB. The year started with 18 days, 8 games, an 8-0 start that eventually ballooned to a 10-0 start. 10 wins in conference play. The win over BYU made it 11 wins in league play at the tournament in Vegas. That kind of cemented the Dons' postseason bid. This was a tremendous ride, wasn't it? And it's as fun a year as I remember in a long time being around the USF men's basketball team.
No, it was incredible. And, I think it was my 23rd year in coaching. And it was by far the most fun I've had as a coach. And it was the winning that obviously played a big part in it, but it was more the people, it was the staff and the tremendous young men that we had in the locker room.
Coach, as you look back at the season, is there anything in your mind that kind of stands out, any particular game or any particular moment where you begin to realize that this was going to be an NCAA tournament team?
Yeah, I mean, from the moment I got here in May or June of last year, it just felt special when I got together with the group and had a chance to see them on the floor and interact with them. I saw pretty early on, that we had a chance to do something special. And sure enough, the group really just bought into roles, and guys, were easy to be around and easy to coach on a daily basis. And guys let us be hard on them. They let us coach them. And to have that many new guys that kind of assimilated into, their roles and accepted their roles, I mean, that's a credit to Todd, number one, and the staff, but also to the young men that we had in the program. That's hard to do nowadays with the transfer portal, to keep people happy. And we had a true team from 1 to 17 of just guys that were in it for the right reasons. And sure enough, look what happened. I mean, we did something that hasn't been done since 1998.
Yeah, it was all the way back to 1998, the last time USF played in the men's basketball tournament, the NCAA tournament. USF that year earned the AQ, the automatic qualifier, as the Dons rushed through the WCC postseason tournament, knocking off Gonzaga in the championship game. I still remember the score. It was 80-67, and then USF went on to play Utah as a 14 seed up in Boise. But I think this year was a bit more special in many ways. That team was a team that kind of got hot at the end, where this year's team was a team that was penciled into the tournament, whether it won, the WCC tournament or not, as we're joined by USF headman Chris Gerlufsen. Coach, have you had a chance to, talk to Todd Golden? I'd be remiss if we didn't thank him here on this program for his contribution. 6 years on the Hilltop, 3 years as an assistant under Kyle Smith, and, of course, the last 3 years as the head man. He's now going to be the coach of the Florida Gators. I had a chance to text with him yesterday, and I'm extremely thrilled for him. I'm sure you've had a chance to visit with him a little bit as well.
No, we've spent, obviously, a lot of time together over the last 3 days. We're extremely close as is, and I don't see any of that changing. He's a guy who I'm going to rely on heavily, and vice versa. We had an incredible working relationship and an incredible friendship away from the job. So we've bounced a lot of stuff off each other already. Whether it's him talking through stuff at Florida and vice versa, me talking through things here at USF. And I don't see any of that changing. He's definitely family for life.
I've been getting texts from alums and phone calls and, people asking me, what kind of coach is he? What kind of offense are we going to have? Well, you were in charge of the offense this past season. So, for the listeners out there, the anticipated style, how will the Dons change? Will anything be different? Will there be subtle differences as we move towards the 2022 and 2023 campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I think every coach has his unique style, and the good thing about kind of the transition is I was here this year. I did run the offense, and obviously offense is predicated on personnel a lot of the times, but philosophies and the way that I prefer to play isn't going to change too much. You tweak it here or there for particular personnel. So I don't see a huge change from an offensive standpoint as long as recruiting finishes up here well. And then defensively, I have a lot of the same beliefs that Todd had. I learned a lot from him, in terms of, just defensive style of play. And I think we'll tweak a few things and be different, whether it's, pressing a little bit more or mixing in some zone here and there. But, over the course of my career, I've had a chance to be around a lot of good coaches and a lot of good defensive minds. So I think part of being a head coach is drawing upon your experiences and, kind of figuring out what works best for you and what suits you. So we'll get it going, but I'm not dumb either. We're going to keep what's working here, and we figured out a way to be very successful, and we're going to build on that.
Yeah, as you reference the style, you've been around a long time, 22 years as an assistant now, 23 years as an assistant in college basketball. You touched on the fact that, you've coached under some guys along the way that have kind of influenced who you have become as a coach. Who are a couple, three guys that kind of molded, who Coach Gerlufsen has become?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to even, me as a player. When I was in college, my assistant coach was Mike Rhodes, who's the head coach at VCU. And so I have a tremendous relationship with him, and I've learned a lot from him over my career, whether my playing career and coaching career. I had the opportunity to work for a guy who's now the associate commissioner of the SEC, and he was the head coach at the University of Hartford. His name's Dan Leibovitz, but he worked for I think 15 years for John Chaney, who's a Hall of Fame coach at Temple. So I learned a lot of just defensive principles from him, and I had a chance to be around Lamont Smith at University of San Diego, who was extremely defensive driven, and I took a lot from him and had a chance to run the offense at San Diego. So, and then Eran Ganat is a good basketball mind too at the University of Hawaii. So I feel like I've been around a lot of good basketball people, and that's helped me kind of form what my culture wants to be and what my philosophy is on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Have you had an opportunity to meet with the guys, the players, the returning core that we'll see back on the Hilltop next year?
Yeah, we met as a team as soon as we got back from the tournament on Friday, and over the last few days, just been having a lot of individual meetings with guys, and we're going to meet tomorrow as a team just to get kind of on the same page in terms of what our schedule is going to be moving forward. But the one thing I know, the most important people are the people in your program, and so I'm going to keep a firm thumb on the relationship piece with our guys, and I'm a relationship-based coach, and that means more to me than anything.
You mentioned an experience you've had along the way, and I want to hit on one school you mentioned, the University of San Diego. So obviously you've been around the West Coast Conference. How much will you rely on that experience, the knowledge of the league?
No, I think that's huge, and I think over time I've learned to see what works in the WCC and what doesn't. And I think there's a formula to being successful and a way to stay in that top 1, 2, 3 in the league, and that's what the goal is every year. We want to build on what we've done this year. We tasted what it feels like to play in March Madness, and that's all I've been thinking about since we've gotten home is how do we get back there and how do we duplicate that feeling, because the feeling of playing in March is like no other.
There really is nothing that compares. I've been around a long time. This is my 31st year. I've covered a number of regionals, as a member of the media. I've been to Final Fours. The last time I went with my team was 24 years ago, and I got that same, kind of feeling, right? You show up. I mean, we got a police escort to the airport. You're really treated like VIPs when you make this tournament. And I was talking to one of your guys that, will be back next year, Zane Meeks, at the airport as we, departed Indianapolis. And I said, this is something special, isn't it? He said, oh, yeah. I said, you want to come back next year, don't you? He said, we will be back next year. And that taste that your guys get will linger, right? And that's what you're hoping, right? They got that little taste, and you want to figure out how do you get back to the NCAA tournament in 12 months' time?
No doubt. I mean, part of what you just said is, makes the hair on my arm stand up. It's just that's why you coach and compete, is to have a chance to play in March. And, you hit the nail on the head in terms of how special of a feeling it is to, from the little things, from the moment you arrive in Indy, and as you said, you have police escorts everywhere. And, you're treated like celebrities in terms of how seamless and smooth everything is from the time you arrive to the time you leave. And it makes you obviously want to win a game and continue to advance. But when you're not in it, I'm assuming that for myself, and I'm going to impart this on the team when we talk tomorrow, is like that feeling that we felt, we're chasing that now, and that should be motivation for us. Every day when we wake up is how do we get back there and do that again.
Coach, a final comment from you. This team has obviously the last 6 years developed a winning culture. 3 years with Kyle Smith. the last 3 years with Todd Golden. 5 of the last 6 seasons, the team has won 20 games or more. There was a certain NIT bid during the COVID year, but obviously that didn't happen because of COVID. Last year was kind of a wash, I think, due to COVID. An excellent campaign this year. When I talk to coaches that want to win, they don't use the phrase rebuild. They use the phrase reload, and I'm sure that's going to be your mindset moving into next year.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's some holes that we need to address for sure. I mean, we're losing some serious production, but I also think we have some guys in the wings who, because we were so old and experienced this year, didn't get to play as much. And there's some guys in the program who I'm really excited about taking a step forward. And it's going to be a matter of myself and the staff of really hitting these streets and pulling obviously talented guys, but guys that are going to fit our culture. We're going to be great representatives of the University of San Francisco and are going to mesh into what we already have here in place. And that's the fun part of all this is putting the pieces together. And, so when we step on the floor next year, we're ready to go.
Coach, congratulations. Nice to have you with that title, head coach in front. I'm looking forward to next season. As soon as it ends, I start getting antsy for, November to roll back around. I know you'll have a busy offseason recruiting and assembling a staff and, filling those holes. It's going to be – we hope it continues to be a fun ride on the Hilltop. And, again, congratulations. Cool stuff.
I appreciate it, Pat. Thank you.